Welcome everyone, they call me IntroTechOut, and I think the user interface of Dreams can be improved significantly. This video I will detail the ways in which I think the current one is lacking and what actions I would take to improve it. Because currently I really do believe Dreams is shooting itself in the foot a bit, and I predict that the more popular the game gets, the more this UI will prove to be an obstacle. Now is probably the best time to reconsider some of its design. Now Dreams of course has many different UIs. There are many things I would improve about most of them, except the Dreamshaping one, you know, where you're actually creating. Despite the crazy amount of time I've spent in create mode, I've rarely felt that this UI was hindering me. It's really well designed. I cannot say the same for the Dreamsurfing and profile UIs though. Those are what I want to get into. Now this video will be quite long, so be sure to use the timestamps if something in particular interests you. I will first explain my issues with Dreamsurfing, then with Dreamshaping, and at the end I will summarize all of it through a mock-up improved UI made in Dreams of course. Let's get started. If I had to summarize my feelings about the UI in general, words like overwhelming, claustrophobic and inconsistent come to mind. My biggest issue often is that I often don't know how or where to find what I want, and I often feel like I have no good overview or even agency over the options. It's like I'm stuck with a low FOV and can't get a good view of the environment. And nowhere is that more clear than with the Dreamsurfing UI. I will say that Media Molecule has actually done a great job of showcasing the better Dreams recently. It used to be that you really had to look hard to find quality games in art, but now the entire Dreamsurfing area is filled with quality. But okay, the first thing you'll notice when booting up Dreamsurfing is that all content is divided into single rows. Most of us play games on a decently sized high definition screen. I see no reason why I should only be able to see 3 or 4 creations at a time. There are a lot of things I'm not a fan of in regards to this scrolling type of UI, but the biggest is probably that 95% of your options are always hidden off screen somewhere. This doesn't just count for the creations in a row, but also for the categories themselves. Want to see the highest rated Dreams of the month? Want to check out the Dreams made by Media Molecule? Want to check out a certain curated category? Well, be prepared to scroll down until you stumble upon it. This UI requires you to memorize it in order to use it efficiently. But you can't memorize it because of the constantly rotating categories, so you never know what you'll find in Dreamsurfing, and so have to scroll past all of it to get the full picture. Even besides the categories themselves, I still don't have a firm grasp on the UI as a whole. Trending Dreams, the highest rated or most played Dreams, even Art's Dream always seems to be hidden somewhere. So badly mind you, that I've legit seen reviewers who didn't even play it. In order to properly explain where I feel the issues lie, let's compare the Dreams UI to YouTube on PC. Dreams has always been described as the YouTube of games, so I think the comparison is pretty fair. The thing that stands out to me immediately is that all aspects of YouTube are immediately accessible via buttons. On the left I have a home button, subscription button and some other nice features like my view history, watch later queue and liked videos. In Dreams these are all features you have to scroll to. They are placed high on the list, sure, but that doesn't change the fact that you can't instantly access any feature or category in the game or kind of view all your options at the same time to make a choice and flip between them. YouTube also has categories, you know, sports, live, movies, but they're neatly placed on the side and so much easier to get a grasp of than the constantly rotating categories in Dreamsurfing. I really want the Dreams UI to be less afraid of buttons, pages and drop-down menus. It's maybe slightly more busy than the clean horizontal rows, but it would allow for much more easy access of features and give players the feeling that they have control over the UI, not the other way around. The current UI feels like a jack of all trades but master of none. It's cool and all that every category and feature is jammed into one page, but this gives very little breathing room, doesn't allow the categories to shine on their own and requires way too much scrolling for my liking. The kind of menu YouTube has on the left side is the exact kind of thing I would think would benefit Dreamsurfing a lot. Features such as recently played, Dreams I thumbed up and Dreams by people I follow could all be instantly accessible here. The feature I use most on YouTube and almost never use in Dreams is the subscription page. Of course I want to see everything that the YouTubers I'm subscribed to upload or the content from Dreams creators I'm following, yet I check the YouTube subscriptions page an unhealthy amount of times per day and never check the Dreams list of Dreams by people I follow. The reason? Once again, the way this UI works with a single endless row of creations just demotivates me for some reason. I don't even want to bother sifting through it. What I love about YouTube is that the subscriptions page is first of all a page instead of a single row. And not just that, it's organized as well. There's a clear separation between what was uploaded today, yesterday, this month, etc. I'd love something like this in Dreams. This could motivate players to come back every day to check out the new creations. And just to point it out, my YouTube subscriptions page can show up to 24 videos at a time. That's 600% of what the Dreams UI shows me. In a glance, I can see what's been uploaded recently and if it interests me. Now imagine if every category of Dreamsurfing was its own page like this, easily accessible from that menu on the left. The moment you'd open Dreamsurfing, you could within one click access what you're interested in. Trending dreams, media molecule curated categories, my like dreams, none of it would be hidden off screen like it currently is. Another benefit is that by making everything its separate page, Dreams could show many more creations at a time, which again removes some of that claustrophobic feeling. But what if you want to find something specific in the current UI? That's where the browsing UI comes in. The current version just makes me laugh because of the use of space. You have this small row of creations at the bottom and the biggest filter menu I've ever seen above it, with even some unused space at the top. There's absolutely no reason why this UI should look like this, and I'm sure the designers know it. But it has been 2 years since early access now, and I do hope this will actually change at some point. Like I said, buttons and drop-down menus. The filter should just be a drop-down menu, allowing Media Molecule to fill the screen with many more creations. I also would like to make it a bit easier to find the content you're interested in. The homepage may be curated now, but that doesn't guarantee you're interested in the categories they've laid out. This is why algorithms like YouTube's one are so awesome. When I go to YouTube, my recommendations aren't curated by YouTube. They aren't like, here are some travel vlogs, here are some makeup tutorials, here are some unboxing videos, and then I just have to scroll and pray to the gods that I come across gaming news. It doesn't even matter how high quality those videos are, 90% of the time I'm just not interested. Dreams can't compete with the algorithm of YouTube, of course, that would be crazy, but I do think there's room for more personalization on the player's end. This does result in a dilemma though. The game already suffers from a lack of players at the moment, and if you then allow them to completely opt out of categories, some genres could get a critically low amount of players. On YouTube this happens less because 1, there are so many viewers, and 2, if a video gets popular enough, the algorithm can spread it throughout the entirety of YouTube, even if it's in a genre you usually don't engage with. I don't know how to solve this, but to future-proof Dreams, a more personal recommendation system is inevitable in my opinion. This is probably really subjective, but for me, I feel completely overwhelmed right now by the amount of rotating categories, all the banners, rows and rows and rows with creation upon creation. It's good that there are so many at least decent quality creations being made, but the sheer amount of stuff in the UI almost makes me unable to start anywhere. It's part of the reason why I like the idea of more pages. I want to be able to give one category my full attention instead of being distracted by so many at once. Something that would be nice is if you could save a filter you're interested in and have it always display in the left menu I discussed earlier. That way discovery is no longer purely bound to Media Molecule. I could check the first person shooter category every day for new creations and so restrict that feeling of being overwhelmed. I also want to talk about following creators for a minute. On YouTube, everyone you're subscribed to shows up in a list on that same left menu. I feel really comfortable with clicking on a channel and taking a quick look at what they've uploaded. But in Dreams, the process of finding the dreamer you follow and finding their recently made content feels a lot more cumbersome. Unsurprisingly, it's again because of the scrolling that leaves most of your options off screen all the time. Also because it's a separate page, it feels a bit disjointed. Now what the hell, intro, I hear you think? Why is it being a separate page a problem all of a sudden when you want everything to be its own page? Well, it should be clear by now, but I don't like when some of my options are hidden from me, because I don't get a good overview of the UI that way. What makes the YouTube UI great is that the left selector menu never disappears. It doesn't matter if I clicked on a video, a channel, the subscriptions page, any of the categories, even settings. I can always bring up this menu and instantly move to another point on the website. In Dreams it's all linear. You go forward in the UI, and if you want to go somewhere else you have to go back first before you can go forward in another direction. Moving from the comments on a dream in the most popular section to a specific category in Dreamsurfing is a multi-stage process, where it only takes 2 clicks on YouTube. So in case of the following page, it's great that it's a page, but with a top level selector menu, moving to and from it would be a lot less cumbersome. Of course it doesn't specifically have to be a menu on the left like YouTube, but I like the general idea of having this higher level quick access menu that you can always get to. It grounds the entire experience and acts like fast travel but for the UI. Don't underestimate the difference that it can make. Also, and this is something that likely can't be changed, the main way to recognize Dreamers' profiles is by their imps. Despite the fact that there's a large variety of them, I never find it easy to reliably recognize creators by their imps, meaning I'm forced to read all the names until I find the one I'm looking for. For accessibility's sake, I'd love circular profile pictures like YouTube, where you could maybe place an in-game screenshot. More personal profile pictures could make Dreamers stand out much more. But yeah, of course I understand if Media Molecule wants to keep the imps. Everything I've discussed so far is mainly player-oriented, and in my opinion it's the most important when it comes to future-proofing Dreams. I just can't imagine the current UI working if Dreams got a lot more popular. It sounds dramatic, but on content creation platforms, agency and personalization are always the keys to success. Creators shouldn't have to rely on Media Molecule highlighting their games for discovery, and players shouldn't have to rely on Media Molecule to find good games to play. Besides saving filters and better following tools, it would also be great if community curators could get a bigger role in recommending creations on the homepage. I have no idea how to though. Before I move over to my gripes about Dreamshaping, because I still have plenty to talk about, I wanted to show you something. Take a look at this. This is indreams.me, the official Dreams website. Spotting anything interesting here? Maybe you've noticed that the filter is a drop-down menu. Maybe you've noticed that the website has a top-level selection menu on the left. Maybe you've noticed that there are 20 creations displayed on the screen instead of 4. Considering Dreams uses the imp cursor like a mouse, I see no reason why a similar UI couldn't be used in-game. It's exactly the type of UI that has proven to work best for user-generated content. That being said, indreams.me is not perfect. The lack of good algorithms means that the showcase dreams are usually the most played ones, either by Media Molecule or released way back in beta and early access. The categories on the site seem somewhat arbitrary and broad. There's a lot of room to add many more and of course allow players to create their own. But whatever, let's not go into full solution territory just yet. I'm not a UI designer, matter of fact designing functional UIs is some of my least favorite things to do for my games. While all the ideas I've talked about could be promising, at the end of the day it's about the problems and more capable designers could find solutions to them that I'm not seeing. So one last time summarized, my feelings from a player's perspective. 1. The horizontal rows give me a certain claustrophobic, overwhelming and fear of missing out type feeling. There's not enough on screen at a time to make me feel in control of the UI. At the same time, the sheer amount of rows and panels makes me so overwhelmed with options that I often can't even find the will to sift through it. 2. The way the horizontal rows are collected in one single page makes deliberate browsing difficult. You can't see what the rows off screen are called, and so mindless scrolling is sometimes the only way to find something that interests you. 3. The way deliberate searching is set up with a huge filter and small row of creations makes me less motivated to use this UI. I don't feel like I can see enough at a time. 4. I don't like the linearity of the Dreams UI, how going into the UI in multiple steps also requires you to move out of the UI in multiple steps before you can go somewhere else. 5. I believe that having Dreamsurfing be completely curated by Media Molecule is not sustainable when Dreams becomes more popular. Players and creators shouldn't have to solely rely on Media Molecule for discovery. 6. The way following currently works, I never feel stimulated to regularly check on recent uploads from creators. This is because in Dreamsurfing the single row just doesn't show enough creations at a time, while the notifications page shows every bit of activity from Dreamers, from updates to releases of small things that I may not be interested in. I really want following creators and Dreams to be as substantial a deal as subscribing on YouTube. 7. Dreamers are not always easily recognizable by imps. Instead you usually have to read every name you come across to find the one you're looking for. 8. Curators are currently underserved and could be pushed to the forefront more. So far everything player related. Like I said, it's by far the most important part of the future for Dreams, but I'm more of a creator, so of course I'd like to talk about what really hinders me as well. And the UI I fight the most is without a doubt the one where I can see all my creations before I start creating myself. First issue, anytime I go into Dreamshaping, I have to scroll down 2 rows to see my creations. Not to go over everything again, but a top level selector menu where I can quick access all the different functions of Dreamshaping, like tutorials, my creations, collaborations, would work fantastically here too. I don't like the claustrophobic rows in Dreamsurfing because they don't show enough at a time, but in Dreamshaping my issue has more to do with organization. As in, there is no way to organize anything. Every creation I've ever made just exists in this long chain, and to find it I have to scroll and scroll and scroll or slowly type it out with the search function. The chain is chronological, so it's always a frustrating, mindless process to find an older file. This UI actively demotivates me to create way too often. I want to make more smaller things like music and gadgets and Dreams, but I don't want to clutter my creations page with small or half-finished projects. This doesn't just even have to do with clutter. Creating tons of little projects while working on a bigger project means that all the files of the bigger project will get split up and lost in the mess. An obvious first step would be to allow us to make folders. I don't need them to function in any other way than collections. Matter of fact, that's a great way to handle it. They just need to be private and of course remove the single element from your creations. I do believe something similar is currently possible with the archive feature, but I don't like all these help steps and workarounds. The best examples of file management can again be found outside of Dreams, like the File Explorer on your PC for example, simple as it may be. Unsurprisingly, even the Windows File Explorer has the YouTube-like overview menu on the left, allowing you to instantly access your most used folders. Another UI I really want to spotlight this video is the creation browser when in create mode. It possesses a major flaw. I can never find my favorite assets, music and other player creations again. I can follow creators, but I can't find them in this UI. I can like creations, but they don't show up here either. If you've used an asset in the past and you want to use the same one, you literally have to remember its name because there's no convenient way to get to it. It would make a huge difference if I could favorite assets and collections and find my followed creators here. Now, to be fair, in terms of assets, this is what collections are for, allowing me to easily save assets and organize them. But again, I don't feel like using collections because my creations page clutters so easily. With a bigger file explorer plus folders, this would not be an issue. Also, the single row UI design hurts the browser UI too, and again in a different way. Because it's a linear chain, creations further up will get seen less. Also, sometimes you have to scroll so long that it's hard to get back to a promising creation you saw earlier, but scrolled past in case there's something better. What I see as the perfect solution is again pages. Not just a page as in the entire screen is filled instead of a row, but also pages as in you can instantly move to page 4, 8, 15, allowing you to again fast travel through the UI. The reason why I like these kinds of pages so much is that it's comfortable to make a mental note of where you found something. It's a lot easier to remember the tree somewhere in the middle of page 4 than the tree you saw 5 minutes ago. In Dreams.me has multiple pages that you can click through. I like that, but it doesn't allow you to instantly access a page in particular, so that's still something I'd like to see. So far, the creation browser. A last thing concerning Dreamshaping is that the way in which private saves, local saves and versions work is not communicated well to creators. The private save pop-up is a step in the right direction, but it remains scary to delete local saves, and I still have issues with accidentally overriding local saves with old versions that were forced upon me through saving something else. I would like to see a quick online save if it's possible, so an online save that overrides the previous one instead of creating a whole new version each time, combating unnecessary load on the servers and preventing a crazy amount of versions whenever I go full debug mode. An issue that should be solvable is that currently the only location where you can delete creations is on your profile, not in your file explorer. This is obviously confusing, you have no real reason to be in your profile except to edit it. All of this brings me to the last topic. This video I've only really talked about functional problems I see with the UI, but there's also something about the presentation that doesn't connect with me. This is purely subjective, I don't know if any of you feel the same, but as someone who played a lot of LBP, the Dreams UI feels a lot less pleasant to me. Where Little Big Planet captures feelings of warmth and familiarity, with all its colors and happy music, Dreams captures feelings of cold and isolation with its dark abstract backgrounds, somewhat understated music and focus on text. It's a problem that extends to the first bit of the UI you come across, where you choose between Dreamsurfing, Dreamshaping and some other stuff. The start menu I also don't like, probably because it plays into the disjointedness of the whole experience. As has become clear by now, every UI in this game is different, with its own quirks and things that you can and can't use it for. They are all completely separated by the start menu. If you again take a look at YouTube, this isn't the case at all. My profile is always available, whether I'm browsing the homepage or newly uploaded videos from subscribed channels. Whether I'm watching a video or scrolling through the comments. Similarly, I can always upload a video, always check my notifications and always scroll through my subscriptions. In Dreams it always seems random which options are available to you and which aren't. There's no overarching design that stays the same no matter what. Now of course the Dreamshaping UI has to be different from Dreamsurfing, your profile and community jams, but I don't think it's necessary to completely split everything up like it is now. I can, for example, imagine a UI where these modes can be switched to with L1 and R1, like how you can go from matchmaking to loadouts to the store in Rainbow Six Siege. The profile and notifications could be in the top corner, while that menu on the left has all the shortcuts you might want. Is any of this feasible? I have no idea. This whole idea of completely redesigning the UI is probably crazy. I don't know what it takes to do something like that. A lot of effort, that's for sure. But at the same time, I don't think the UI we have now is up to snuff. Things like the lack of folders, weird use of space with the filters, the lack of certain options in the creation browse menu, the rows of stuff that result in numerous complications, etc. Dreams already is a niche product that not everyone will enjoy. Some adults feel the presentation is condescending, some find the idea of motion controls sickening, some are intimidated by the creation tools. The least Dreams can do is have a clean, responsive, consistent, easily understandable UI. A UI that responds to the player's needs instead of bombarding them with options, most of which you won't be interested in. A UI that offers a good overview of where you can find what you want without gatekeeping features behind specific categories. A UI that preferably elicits visions of a calm afternoon forest instead of a dark void. Those were all the things I wanted to talk about. Now I'll guide you through my own UI mockup that you might have seen throughout this video and explain my thoughts with a more concrete example. To make it absolutely clear, I'm not trying to be an armchair developer here, I just enjoy it way too much to think through challenges like these. First thing you'll notice is that my UI has a background. I placed some Art's Dream assets, which gives the UI a much happier look. I also have a dark mode, of course. I tested with a completely black background and it immediately gave me a similar cold feeling to the actual Dreams UI. Dark grey doesn't for some reason. About the general layout, I've split up the UI into 3 pages. So in my ideal world, that start menu where you choose between the different categories is gone. Instead you're able to quickly switch modes using L1 and R1. The first page is the home page. Here's where Media Molecule could put some of the banners and news that is now spread over the different modes. This is also the place where the community gem could be promoted among other things. The recent updates category replaces the highlights category from the current start menu. Its name doesn't have to be changed in this way, I just thought it made more sense. Your profile, instead of only being available from the start menu, is now always accessible in the top right, like YouTube, along with your notifications. Your profile is now a unique picture instead of an imp. I took a lot of inspiration from YouTube for this UI. YouTube is well known and popular, so everyone should feel right at home in a minute or two. With the changes I've discussed so far, I've already given 3 of the 5 categories of the current start menu a new place. Let's move over to Dreamsurfing. The first thing you'll notice here is that the rows are gone. Instead of 4, there are now 12 dreams on screen. By utilizing a page system, you can quickly jump forward and backwards through creations. I don't intend to kill scrolling altogether. I'd imagine you could satisfyingly flip through pages with sideways scrolling and maybe scroll through the page numbers at the bottom as well. I will say though that the dreams are already getting quite small in this case. For some screens it might be better to have less visible for better clarity. So my idea is that a grid symbol on the top right functions like the skill option. Just like you can change the skill in the Windows File Explorer. It could also allow for a list option where you could have a crazy amount of creations on screen. Would be best suited for Dreamshaping though. With different design there are other solutions as well, like making the thumbnail bigger when hovering over it or placing the likes inside the thumbnail for more space. Also, I imagine that the left selector menu could be collapsed so you can set up the search parameters and then utilize the full screen for browsing. About that left selector menu, it has a lot more options in Dreamsurfing. The following category would show you the most recently uploaded dreams by people you follow, ideally like YouTube where it shows if it was uploaded today, yesterday, last week, etc. I also imagine you could switch modes to see the dreamers you follow. The like dreams, play later, and history section all speak for themselves. They work just as they do now, but allow you to easily access and devote your full attention to them. The next 3 categories are all expandable. This is to combat all those rows and panels from before. Anything I want to see, I can choose to see. I don't need to scroll past things I'm not interested in to get to the things I am interested in. The browse category is good old unfiltered Dreamsurfing. I place the trending, forever popular and newest dreams categories in there. Of course there's an opportunity for many more categories and functions in this mockup and I'm probably missing a ton of features from the current UI, but this is just to show the idea of how I want the UI to flow. Media Molecule Highlights contains everything the current Dreamsurfing page does. Different Media Molecule curated categories that rotate constantly. You can expand or collapse Highlights so you again don't have to see anything you might not be interested in. Maybe Highlights should be the default category you land on when opening Dreamsurfing instead of being at the bottom where I put it here. The favorite filters category is exactly what I described earlier in this video. If there's a genre you're most interested in, you'd be able to stay in touch with it using select filters. At the top of the screen you can find the search and filter functions. The filter is now a drop-down menu so it doesn't take up any space once you've set your parameters. As an aside, in this mockup I only allow one category to be expanded at a time because of limited space. I think limiting the amount of options to only the screen is a bad idea, so if this were real, I'd allow players to scroll up and down in that selector menu should things go off screen. Just like YouTube. Let's move on to Dreamshaping. Instead of having to scroll down, you're immediately greeted with your creations. They could still be organized by usage date, it matters less because you can see more. And because you're familiar with them, the smaller thumbnail size also matters less, allowing for a lot more creations on screen. The pages help with quickly scanning for older projects. I've also added folders. The nice thing is that they're not just collections that get lost throughout the other files. My idea is they can easily favorite or pin them to that selector menu in the My Creations category. Here you could quickly dive through layers of folders. By showing only folders and no elements, browsing stays quick. By clicking on a particular folder, the screen would be filled with whatever it contains. The categories Collaborations, Browse and Workshop speak for themselves. Highlights is just like Highlights in Dreamsurfing, but can show assets, collections, music and scenes here instead of just dreams. In this case I wouldn't want Highlights to be the default category you land on though. Let's make creating as fast to start as possible. But that was all I wanted to talk about in regards to this mockup. Already when playing around with it, I noticed that moving around the UI is magnitudes quicker. Everything is pretty much 2 or 3 clicks away. Moving from anything in Dreamsurfing to anything in Dreamshaping can take seconds of backing out and scrolling now, but with this idea it wouldn't even take half a second. Anyway, I'm sure that some of you have your own ideas about the UI as well. I wonder if you feel the same as me and struggle to play creations because of the lack of good overview and the overabundance of rows. But maybe you feel entirely different. The comments are the place to be regardless. Thank you for watching, I'll see you around.